Hello?
Hello. Hello.
What's up? What's up?
Oh, hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep,
Cool. All right. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Uh,
Had some decent practice games, and I'm just chilling.
cool. Yeah, you guys been playing a lot of custom games.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, so.
Yeah, I know. I just mean, it's good to see that you guys are being able to actually get people to play against.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone can hear you, so we're good on the technical side. So yeah, thanks for doing this. Chat, feel free to ask any, hard-hitting questions if you have them. But I was gonna log into my main accounts and go over. I don't really have a lot of Zerg replays, so if you have any, that would be great. Unfortunately, y'all don't come into the EPTU Open Cup too often.
That is true. I mean, I guess we can look at some Rainer games. Do you have a EPT replays or
I do,
VODs?
yeah.
Yeah,
We can
okay.
look at the Rainer replays. Definitely interested in your take on what Battle Mech is like right now. I don't know if you saw Pyramid
Yeah,
versus
I
Rainer
saw.
at all. Yeah, okay. And then yeah, you kind of demolished Showtime with Swarm Hosts as well week before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can look at a bunch of that stuff. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share my custom game replays. I guess I would need to check which ones I played on stream and which ones I played off stream. But I can show a couple for sure.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I need one moment. I'm gonna throw out the dogs real quick because they're being a little loud.
Yeah. How hard hitting? Pertinent to StarCraft hard hitting, I guess.
Okay, I'm back.
Cool. Are you on NA?
On my way.
Okay, cool. Yeah, easier to go that way. Oh wait, no. No, my replays would be over on Europe. Yes, no, yeah, you can say on Europe.
Okay,
So,
I'm coming back.
because obviously, like when I download replays, I just put them on NA. But gonna go over the ones that were played for the EU weekly. Well, that's on EU.
Okay.
Cool. All right, let's go over the ZVT stuff first, because that is most recent, and I can already find them. Yeah, I'm actually gonna go over like 3 replays of ZVT, but we can do it fast. Because I also want to get your opinions on the maps, so that's why.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So first it was Babylon. This was the bio game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's this map pool overall, I think has a couple of maps that are decent for Terran. It has a bunch of maps. I think it's 3 maps that are pretty good for Zerg. And then a lot of decent maps for Terran. So I think the vetoes are gonna be very different from different Zerg players because there's 4 short maps, and then usually if there's 4 similarly short maps, it depends a little bit on how the bases are set up, and then it's pro gamers' preference on which maps they play. So for example, this would be probably my first veto, but Rainer might enjoy more of a Ling Bane style than Ling Bane centric, so he might not veto this map. But I was surprised to see it.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like, is it the shortest one? It might be the shortest one.
It's New Humanity is the shortest one.
Okay.
But I for example like that one.
Oh,
Although
okay.
I think it's probably the best for Terran, but once they figure it out, there's also a difference in like what maps are theoretically good and how fast Terrans are to adapt to the map's strengths. So I think New Humanity will be the best one for Terran, but for now, in custom games, it's going really well on that map. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't really have any strong opinions on maps yet. Except I think we're gonna get to Gresfon, whatever it is, soon. And I like some of the details there. But Babylon, just know it's a shorter map. And in this case, I think Heroine just got overwhelmed.
Okay, yeah, I didn't really pay much attention to this game, but yeah, Gabe is always a little bit weird to me because he actually doesn't have CVT practice because he practices only on ladder, and there's no Zerg that plays ladder. So I'm not even sure how he practices the maps. I guess mostly with EPT caps. That's why he's playing the NA ones now as well.
Oh, okay.
So most of his practice on these maps, I suppose, is on Mondays nowadays. And then probably right before a tournament, I think Jona's gonna play with him, but he doesn't play that much, so he usually recycles a lot of builds. So on maps that are good Zerg maps, he does like this build. He used to do very often. Oh, actually, not this build. Oh no. Oh, this is a Cyclone. Okay.
Oh yeah, maybe I chose the wrong first map. Actually, maybe they're not in order.
Yeah.
But so there's just not many Zergs in the top of the ladder right now.
Oh, there is no Zerg lettering. Okay. Right now in general there is no one lettering. I think like my Protoss is top 10 GM in Europe, and they're like rank 2 GM is 6.2k. It's only Gabe pretty much.
Okay. Interesting.
Because of the maps. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean it makes sense. Hopefully you guys get that on ladders soon.
So yeah, this build is pretty funky. I think Maru played this. It looked like the build that I think he did this in the final game of GSL in the 4-0 stomp against Ragnarok. And this style is now definitely a lot better because of the how fast the Hyperflight Protoss comes online, and simply because of the Cyclones being better. But he already got into an insane position with this Hellion run by.
Yeah, it was pretty decent. I mean, it could have been worse, but so you feel the effects of the Cyclone change when you combat the units?
Yes, it is. You can feel it with stuff like Queens, especially. Because those are not armored and those have a lot of HP, so damage change makes a lot of difference. But I didn't get the chance to play a lot against Cyclones. I actually thought it would not matter at all, and it would make it too much stronger. But we also got a little worse against it, obviously, since we didn't practice too much against it. But yeah, I didn't play against it yet, so I can't really comment on if it actually got stronger or not.
Right.
Just in these games, it looked decent.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that I kind of was like, I don't know if it's because of changes or because of the relative inexperience. 2-ish, 3 years ago. It's all the rage. You guys are well practiced against it. This game, and I'll remember as we get through it. But this was the Swarm Host option, and I guess like the beginning wasn't too great for Raynor, but overall, did you like the Swarm Host option on this map against the style of play?
Yeah, I think on this map is pretty good. If he has a good early game, I think you can just kill them with Swarm Host, because you can get the creep to a position where if you launch the Swarm Host from it, it gets towards the Terran base, and then if the Cyclones have to stand and fight, they obviously suck, so you're gonna have to keep kiting and then stop mining. You're gonna start losing depots, and it can snowball very quickly. So I think on a map like this, against a mech without battle cruisers to force corruptors, if you can get Swarm Host very fast across the map, I think it can be very strong. But yeah, if you have a rough early game, like he just now is starting the Swarm Host when Terran is already close to maxed out supply, then yeah, I don't think it's a good call. So for the map in general, I like it, but not in this position. I think in this position, you either stay very low on gas count and you go very Link Bane heavy and you try to get us around, or you go Infestors. I think that's the only two options.
Last time we saw Battle Mech, yes, Infestors were an option, but we also saw, especially Raynor, if I recall correctly, this was 3 years ago, but actually diving towards Hive and really emphasizing Viper abducts more often. Did that go away and I kind of missed it, or did something change in that regard, or was that just an experimental phase from Raynor? Because that might have been what it was.
I'm not sure. Usually we only go Vipers. We rarely go Vipers against mech nowadays because we go very tempo based, and usually the Vipers are only good against the tanks. Like if you start abducting Cyclones and all the Cyclones lock on, like you're gonna kill 3 Cyclones, but you're gonna lose more units while you do it, and then you have to go back and you do it again. So usually Infestors are better against Cyclone mech in particular, but against tanks, obviously the Vipers help.
Right.
Also, they're not that bad against Banshees either, so I don't think they're terrible. But if you go, let's say, Roach Hydra into Lurkers or something, and then you get Vipers, that's really good, because then you have a constant way of zoning out the units, and you can abduct the units one by one. You won't lose units for free every time your Vipers are regaining energy. With Ravager Bane, I think getting infestors or going full army supply and then going for surrounds are the two best options usually.
And he said that if they don't go for battle cruisers as an opener to force out that spire, that just pushes off the swarm host too much.
Yeah. So against battle cruisers, there's like a swarm host all in, but you need a Nidus for it. So your queens can be on both sides pretty much, and that's the only way you can use swarm host, but it's not really reliable. And then if you go spire first, not only are the swarm hosts super late, so the Terran player is basically going to be max by the time the swarm hosts are on his map, but also you have no supply. So in this game, he could go up to 80 drones. If you go Corruptor, Swarm Host, your army is just going to be super small. So you can force waves with very little units. You can spread your units super easily. So usually against BC mech, Swarm Host is a little bit harder to use. Against Banshees, like Queens tend to do a little bit better. But once the Banshees go to higher numbers, it can also be a little bit tricky to use. That's why I think it's only good on very small maps like this one. Like this map is... It reminds me a little bit of Cyber Forest, and back then they actually did use to play mech. And whenever they used to play the Cyclone map, you could go Swarmos on that map. So I'd imagine it is similar here, even though like the numbers changed slightly.
And how about this almost mass Banshee thing that we're looking at right now? Did you think that Raynor just opted not go for that Spire because he didn't kind of realize how much the Banshees are going to make an impact? This was a big pullback for him here. Or that he was keeping in mind kind of what you were talking about with the battle cruisers, the split of the supply. Yeah,
I think the Banshees are... So you need Banshees or battle cruisers, otherwise mech just doesn't work, because you just die to Nidus Swarm Host. But against Banshees, theoretically, like if you have two groups of 6 queens, let's say, you can just station 6 queens at the front with an overseer, and that's fine. That's not fine if the opponent has 2 or 3 battle cruisers. But against this, theoretically, it should be fine, but here he lost all of his queens. I think he got a little bit surprised by the amount of Banshees.
Yeah.
And he moved the spore too late. Like if he has spores in the front, then maybe it's okay. But I mean, to be honest, at this point, it's already looking pretty bad for him.
Yeah. All right. Okay, interesting. So we might see swarm hosts on that map. I did just literally skip the first game. My bad. So Gressvan was the first game played, and that was the bio game. Let's switch this one. I actually kind of like this map as a spectator. I find that it has a neat combination of like pluses and minuses, basically. So what's the Zerg's perspective?
Yeah, pretty much that. There's a bunch of stuff that's good for it, Zerg, and there's a bunch of stuff that's bad. This map has a very short, very close third base to the natural, which nowadays is very rare. So I like that. It's also it's a very big map, so it's good against Terran by default, because it's big, so big rush distance, and it has a lot of bases. But at the same time, it's like you kind of expand fire away from the creep, and it's more difficult to veto. So I think this is usually always the first Zerg map pick, but it's not gonna get vetoed. It's the third best Zerg map basically in this map pool. I still think it's Zerg favorite though, especially against Terran. Against Protoss, I'm not sure, but
are there any maps that are like hard nosed from any race right now? Like
yeah, I do think altitude, and I think altitude is pretty bad for Terran.
Okay.
So I think they should veto it against Zerg. It's kind of like Pride, but not quite as extreme as Pride of Altaris, but pretty sure they should veto it. And then in a best of 3, Ancient Cistern, I think the map is called, is also a hard no. So if it's a best of 3, I think they should just veto those 2. And then this one is also a good Zerg map, so there's 3 good Zerg maps, which wasn't the case in the past map pool, which the past map pool was like 4 decent good Terran maps, so you would always we had to play Moondance or Waterfall or something. But this map pool, they basically have to play one of those maps. And for Protoss, honestly, this map pool got especially a lot better against Protoss. I think against Terran, this map pool got better because the last one was Terran favorite, and this one is fine. Like it's good for Zerg. But I think especially against Protoss, the map pool changed. Usually the way it is if a map pool is a Zerg map pool, that's because the Terran players say it is. So then it has a lot of big maps usually. And then big maps are not that great against Protoss because they can basically be greedy and play whatever they want.
Okay.
And get into late game scenarios quite easily, wall off, that kind of stuff. But in this case, there's a lot of open maps as well. like a lot of very, very open areas to attack into third bases and fourth bases, which open maps just generally favor Zerg. So this map pool I think is especially good for Zerg. Like we hadn't had that in a while.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into maybe more of that later. So we had a Hellbat Marauder push in this game. First impressions while we watch this unfold.
It can be a decent build. I mean, it's a 3cc build. Honestly, I hold it almost always, even if I'm not prepared. Similar to what Rainer is doing now. So it's not that good unless you catch the queens. Because the queens are split nowadays always. So you can boost on top of one group of the queens, and if you catch like 2 of them, it can work. But if you catch no queens, it's pretty bad. So it depends a little bit how far forward you hold with the queens against Viking. Because against Viking, you cannot see it coming, right? So there is a big possibility of him seeing, of him catching it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He that is the big difference that I remember noting. I think that Rainer had some indication. Maybe not actually. Back to everyone. Because he did seem to like very purposefully have his queens like ready to combine together. Like he didn't just like pull them from every single which way. Like he almost immediately had them all together. So
yeah, I guess it was at the back of his mind, but he for sure didn't expect it because he just spent energy on creep tumors, which he probably would not have done.
Oh yeah, I always forget about that. Keep track of that. Okay, and then what I thought was nice about this was not necessarily the Hellbat push, which Rainer handles pretty well, but that it really drives home the lack of creep spread around this particular portion. I guess, is that correct? Do you think that was here Marine's plan? Because then he pretty quickly follows us up with a drop here too. And how brutal is that for Zergs? Looking at this map, it's large. You said that's pretty good. There's some open spaces. Those are good. But then its notable downside is that, your potential 5th, I suppose, like where the queens are, I guess, can be sieged. Which here Marine didn't choose to make tanks, so I guess your thoughts on all of those things.
Yeah, I think you can set up your push like this. It obviously also passively stops the creep spread because while you're defending, there's no way you're spreading any creep tumors. So it helps in different scenarios, but I think this spot that Gabe cleared up is the most direct path of attacking, but it doesn't actually threaten any of the outside bases, nor is it that close to the base. So if you're playing Biomine, this is probably the worst spot to have cleared the creep. Like if he cleared the top creep, it would have been a lot better. The reason he cleared it there is just because that was the fastest attack path. And now, because there is no creep, he keeps attacking here. But theoretically, the best place to attack at this point in the game for a Biomine player is the 5th base. And then, so you go to the 5th base with the first couple of medevacs, with the units that he has right now. And then afterwards, you send the next to somewhere else. Now he sees the queens are exposed, so he goes full YOLO and he kind of tries to break him here. Which worked decently well, honestly. You get quite close here.
Yeah.
But usually, as you said, like this is something you do more so with tanks. Like Widow Mines are good at trading well over time, but they don't have a lot of killing power. So against Widow Mines, usually you want to go higher drone count, you can go more gases as Zerg, and you should be fine. But now that his queens got caught, it got kind of tricky.
When you said
I think if he
for this map, by the way, it's the center one.
Yeah, it always depends on the creep. Like if you have insane creep to the left, you can take out also the left base.
Oh.
But usually it's the center one that he took. I think his expansion pattern is the normal one.
Okay. Okay, cool. So this actually wasn't the best for the Widowmine follow-up. Well, it almost worked. Doing great for the tanks.
Even the left side, if you have it cleared, is quite nice for a Widowmine drop. For a Widowmine playstyle, because you can threaten the low ground, and then at the same time you need to keep units at the main, because it can lift and go to the main. And the Widowmine playstyle is all about how you split your units. So you force a certain amount of units to be in certain places, and then one Widowmine hits, and then you can take a good fight in some location. So that's how Clem always plays. He tries to force you to split your units, so you don't have that much supply to counterattack or overwhelm him on any side of creep. And then if he does that well, usually always one of those prongs is where Raynor has creep right now, so even though he doesn't have a base there, it's still pretty important. Yeah, but Gabe is just playing it completely different. He's just trying to out-trade them on a single front, which is usually not how wouldn't mind players play, but I think he smelled some blood in the water, which just wasn't there, because Raynor already was on 90 drones.
Yeah.
So even though he killed the queens, it was not really a killing chance there.
Okay, interesting. Well, that's good goal setting, basically. Keep in mind. And then the last one was another battle mech game, which was pretty cool. Won't be able to go through all of it. It was a rather long game, but just get your impressions on Dragon Scales.
Yeah, I think this one also is a relatively short map. It's very similar to Coda, honestly.
So I've
And
heard.
yeah, so that's it's a better map for Terran as well, but not super good for Terran. So in that set, they played one map that I would say is Zerg favored, and then two maps that are slightly Terran favored.
Okay.
Although I think usually Zergs just don't veto Royal Blood, and that one is more even than Babylon or Dragon Scales or Near Humanity. So I think usually it's always going to be Grassvan and Royal Blood in a best of 3 DBT. I think that's the way it's usually going to go. But then Raynor just had weird vetoes.
Okay. Well, we one of the things I noticed, again, you can't go through all of it. It's like a 30+ minute game. But towards the tail end, as Raynor was, spoiler alert, guys, he was losing. It became a surprisingly condensed map in terms of the amount of bases that Zerg was able to control. So I'm sure you've heard that people have picked up on the amount of bases in this map pool was quite high, which would theoretically be better for Zerg. But I think this is one of the smaller ones, to be fair. I might be wrong about that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think 7 maps is very... 7 bases per map, I think, is pretty standard.
Yeah, that's the most average. There's more 8s than usual is I think the difference.
Yeah.
But this map kind of pushes the bases forward and the center a lot more, which ended up being a part of Raynor's undoing, I suppose. Have you experienced difficulty continuing to expand on this map after 4 bases?
Yeah, I do. I think it's the easiest. It's also not that difficult for Terran to take 5 bases here, so this map is pretty difficult in general. So if I play on it, I try to, I don't know, you kind of have to end with a Hydra Viper Bane push if you try to play defensively. Taking the outside base is very difficult. Also getting creep in front of them is super difficult, especially on both sides. So it's a relatively hard map because of it. It's also a map where I'm sure we're gonna see some 8 Rex because it's straight through the middle. It's not that far away from your own third base. And then from there, you can attack the 2 sides. And if at the right side there is no creep, so from where Raynor spawned, you can just rotate around and then always fight semi-off creep at the very least. So yeah, this is just a way better map than the one before. Although the grass fan also has a pretty decent tank push spot. So if basically where Gabe went with his Widow Mines is not a bad Ajax position either.
Okay, that's a good point. Or 8 Raxes potentially. He chose to do Battle Mech on this map though. Any reason why you can think of?
Yeah, probably because he won with Battle Mech and lost with Bio.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very map dependent. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, it kind of worked out. Again, awkward blue flame opener does awkward things. And any other big points? I mean, do you think this is going to be a map where Zergs are inclined to be more aggressive? As you said, maybe defensive Zerg is difficult to play. So does that mean y'all going to be trying to play aggressive here?
Probably much more Ling Bane, like pure Ling Bane. Like no Muta, you're going to get Muta on like Grassvan, Ancient Cistern. On this map, I think it's going to be a lot of 4 gas only. And then, or if they play Hydra Bane, very long 5 gas. And then try to blow up the 5th base at the very least, or even the 4th base.
Okay.
I think that's probably the playstyle that's gonna happen. I really doubt we're gonna see Broodlord games or anything like that on this one.
Gonna be tough. Yeah. And I don't think there's too many more interesting ports. Well, that I didn't understand anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and tap out of this one too. We had 2 questions come in from chats. One's rather long, so here we go. Um, question for Mr. Pro Gamer. The entire map pool is massive mains and thirds 1,000 miles away. They're a Terran player, by the way. Doesn't this make any fast expand styles super vulnerable to any kind of high aggro pressure? Since thirds are so hard to defend, meaning roaches get more value and are stronger by default. Since Terran finds it harder to establish the eco, it makes late game weaker since ghosts can't be maintained in the necessary numbers for late game. So map's massive, thirds far away. It seems it could be difficult to hold for Terran against aggressive styles, and thus they can't get to late game very well.
I don't think the third being far away is honestly an issue for Terran whatsoever, because usually they just expand forward even if it's further away. I don't think they really mind too much as long as it's reasonably close. I also don't think this map pool has third bases further away than usual. Too much. Obviously, the more bases there are, the worse a ghost playstyle gets, because the more bases Zerg can mine and try to overpower the opponent. So the more bases there is, the better Zerg will become in the later stages of the game, even if they're not going to play like late game unit compositions, just mass units and keep throwing them at the Terran and then hope at some point the Terran dies. And I think what's more so important is if the fifth base is far away and the fourth base, then that kind of makes turtling hard for Terran.
Okay.
At the same time, though, then that also makes Widowmine playstyles stronger. So it makes aggressive playstyles stronger from Terran, makes defensive turtle playstyles worse, and then it depends completely on the map layout if like pushes can become stronger. The main bases themselves being huge is not good for Zerg because it's super like it's basically impossible to scout everything with an Overlord against both Terran and Protoss. So that's not great. And I suppose Terran is bad for Terran against Blink Collins, but I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. Other than that, but yeah, that's not really my matchup, so not my place to talk.
Okay.
But I personally much prefer smaller main bases.
On that subject, what is your opinion about late game TVZ right now in the patch?
I think I honestly think the Broodlord got quite a bit worse in fights over time. Us not being able to do the Broodlord trick makes it worse, but even just Broodlords during the fight, like the Broodlings just die way faster. And if the Hellbats die once, which happens in pretty much all of the direct engagements when it happens, makes it much worse. So late game, I think, will mostly consist of Hydra, Bane, Viper, and keep going and hoping to take a good fight. I think that will be most of it. I think we played less and less Lurkers towards the end, and now that the Ghost Snipe is nerfed, I mean, it's not really nerfed against Lurkers. I don't think we're going to see too much more Lurker, but if the Terrans like overdo Widow Mines, maybe we'll see a Lurker switch into Lurker Niduses pop up here and there. But I think it's going to be mostly Hydra Bane, Viper, A-moving Planetaries, and Ultraling Bane trying to win the game fast. That kind of stuff. So mobile Zerg, blowing up bases, a lot of that.
Yeah, it seems like it was already moving towards a lot of Ling Bane, Hydra Viper. Not quality units, just quantity again. So, you said you didn't think that the Ghost nerf was really in effect to the Lurkers. Broodlords got worse, but then to find Broodlords was a bit rare anyways. Overall, have you had any struggles versus Terran? Are there any like custom games that you're playing where mass ghosts is considered a problem, or turtle Terran in general?
I mean, I play mostly with Bian and Clem, and they play late game more active, so they make ghosts, but they still like they use them in fights and they still move out. So they're not really turtling too much because they're playing with Widow Mines, and Bian just masses orbitals everywhere. Like, it doesn't even expand with Planetary, so they're very active. So I haven't played against Turtle Terrans, but I think this map pool also is worse for Turtle Terrans. So that is better for players like Clem, worse for players that like to turtle. But most of the time, to be honest, I think the turtling was more of a plan B after all of their aggression failed. So
yeah.
Not sure many Terrans went into the game trying to turtle unless it was Stargazers, maybe.
And the reason that it's bad for turtle
is that the maps are wide. A lot of the maps are wide. So the bases are far away, and as you said, a lot of maps have many bases.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like some of them are dimensions okay? And I think the last map we looked at was kind of that case. But yeah, many of them are wide. And the second question actually was could these smaller maps be good for 1-1 Roach?
Let me take a look at the maps. I don't play 1-1 Roach that much, so I need to check. I think Dragon Skeleton looks okay for 1-1 Roach. Babylon looks questionable. Maybe if you break the rocks, it can be okay. Royal Blood looks. Most of them look like Royal Blood, Babylon, Dragon Scales look okay. All the other ones are, I think, terrible.
Okay.
So those three, if you want to play 1-1 Roach, maybe do it on those three. I think on all of them is fine, but you do need to break the rocks on Royal Blood and on Babylon.
So there's options, but you don't necessarily see a resurgence.
No. I mean, you're always going to see 1-1 Roach if the Terrans start playing greedy. I think it's not even too map dependent. Like Curious Minds was a great 1-1 Roach map, but usually when people 1-1 Roach, it's just because the other guy, they basically read the Terran before the game is gonna skip tanks. That's the main reason we're gonna go 1-1 Roach. And then there's some builds that are worse against 1-1 Roach because they add production later. So most of the time 1-1 Roach has not too much to do with if it's actually good or not, because it's never like you're never supposed to win with 1-1 Roach if the Terran does a normal build and makes tanks, but it's more of a prediction type thing, preparation.
Okay. This is the infamous finals where Rainer just swarm hosts Showtime 3 times in a row. Super fun to cast. Is there any reason for this? Is it Rainer? Is it the patch? Is it the maps? What's up?
Well, there's a reason that Swarmhouse worked in the series, and that's specifically good against Showtime. But
Okay.
I talked with Rainer because I thought of doing that myself if I played against him, and he didn't even know the reason. He just said he felt like it. Like he did it once and then it worked, so he bantered around. And he was just bantering. He didn't. He really didn't have a master plan in mind. But yeah, Showtime I think started playing Robo and then expanding off low gateway counts to his fort base. And since all-ins in general are not that great, just doing the prolonged pressure of the swarm, so like the prolonged all-in, works quite well actually against him because he has so little gateway units. Usually.
Okay.
In general, Swarmos is only good in one scenario, that is against Stargate into ground toss, and only against Stargate into ground toss 6 gas. So against Stargate into hero style, for example, it's pretty bad. Against obviously any multi Stargates, it's very bad, and against any Twilight opener, it's just straight up briefing. So it's not really an option. It's very specific to playing against Showtime. For example, in this game he goes double Forge, and then he goes Charge at Archon. So this is the best case for this. Oracle into 6 gas, and he goes double upgrades, and he goes Templar Archives and Robobay. Theoretically, Robobay is fine. It's pretty good, like Disruptors are pretty good. But trying to get everything at the same time is a little bit too much. I know that they played 2 days later, and then Showtime beat him 3-1. So you can very often just adapt. Like you're gonna have a series like this and you look stupid, but then you realize what your opponent is up to. You adapt a little bit, and then you beat him the next series. So I think it's not too crazy here. I didn't actually watch these games, so I'm watching this for the first time. It looks like a decent start for Showtime.
You think? Actually, I thought his first swarm host handling was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it looks really good. I don't think you even are supposed to get a fort base though. You probably didn't know until now. I think what you're supposed to do is you unload the zealots at the fort base, at where Rainer's fort base was, and then you bring back the prism. I think having a prism at home is super important against Swarm Host. And then you just always shoot the waves. I remember I skipped through it a little bit. I also think one of the massive mistakes that Showtime did was he kept not targeting the Locust Waves with the Disruptors because he wanted to get full damage on the Roach Ravager, right? Because those are units that actually die. But it's way better to shoot the Locust. Because it's all about unit retention. Like once you get towards max, you won the game, and he's already so close. So he just needs to kill the locust. They have way more DPS than Roach Ravager. So he lost like 2 icons there because he tried to. First of all, because he didn't have a prism at home, and then second of all, because he tried to get the jackpot with the Roach Ravager. And then Rainer's macro is obviously also good, so he doesn't ever lose that much Roach Ravager. And yeah, now he's dead. Now the supply difference is too big. You need to kind of save all your units. And if you go mass Blinkstalkers, you have a free win, because you can't get across the map to Swarm Host. So that's why you don't see that much Swarm Host. It's just not that good against many styles. And you just have killed or lost us. Or well, usually you scout it. The thing is, if you would be able to go Roach, Infestation Pit, 6 gas, and then you see its blink, and you could just play lurkers from it, it would be fine. But going Roach, 6 gas, Infestation Pit, and you're playing against a hero style, you're just dead. Like you cannot get your map control. You will lose all the creep. You're gonna have to mass units. You're eventually even gonna fall behind in workers. So it's not a good always play style. But against some players that don't play the hero style, like Showtime, it's a good strategy.
I went to a stream a couple days ago, but a week after this, and he mentioned that he didn't really play that style anymore. So it was one thing, I guess. Then you said that he played another series very soon after, and you know that Rainer played Swarmhost in that series?
He played Swarmhost, I think one. I know he lost a game with Swarmhost.
Okay.
I think he won a game and lost a game with Swarmhost.
Okay. I mean, I know I do try to emphasize this, especially during some of these open cups. Like, sometimes people just have bad days, like they're just thrown off, or their style is figured out or something like that. So, obviously did not take this as face value. Rainer's just much better than Showtime. But I was surprised that Showtime couldn't adapt within the 3 games. This is the 3rd game. I skipped the second one because it was rather similar. But we're also on another map, which I wanted to get your thoughts on too. So Neo-Humanity, kind of one of the weirder ones as well. First impressions of the map. I mean, for me, I always look at the 3rd base option, especially for Protoss. And do you know why they changed the minerals to gold instead of blue?
I have no clue.
Okay.
I think probably the map maker just wanted to have that. I think the ESL crew always just talks to the map makers what they have in mind, and he probably wanted to be gold minerals, but I don't know why.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this map I think is probably my favorite one because it's very different. Like I haven't seen a map like this before. I think it's not good for Zerg against Terran. Like I think it's probably the worst, especially the watchtowers make it pretty shit. But I think it's really cool that you can kill the rocks in the middle, and then you have a very big rush distance, or a bigger rush distance, and you will see everything coming with the watchtowers. And then you have such different expansion patterns. The first couple of bases are super easy to take, and then later on it becomes very hard. And it's all in vision range of the watchtower, so there's a lot of stuff going on there that's good for some races, bad for others. Mostly good for Terran. And it's a short map, so I don't know. I find this map very cool. Overall, even though as I said, I don't think it's necessarily the best. I think for now it's good against Protoss. Just because it's short and it has easy to defend bases and it has a early rich geyser. Which Zerg can take and Protoss can't. So that is good stuff for Zerg, but then on the same note, like you can defend rather easily, and then if it goes to later stages of the game, how much does that really matter?
I know.
But yeah, this game
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know the first guess is for how the expansion path of the Protoss was that they might mine out the minerals and then take the horizontal 3rd. But as you see here, Showtime took a triangle 3rd. Is this what Protoss have been doing? Triangle 3rds?
I've had some Protoss take the linear ones, but I think it's worse because it opens up more attack paths. And you should just never mind this, I think, because until you take maybe a 6 space, because it just is one more attack path, which always favors Zerg. So I think both Terran and Protoss shouldn't take these.
5, 6? 6 space? Like you take the middle one before then?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you basically just shut down the middle, and then you take it as 6, and then you go to the sides. I think is probably the way I would play it, but it's doable. I mean, you can theoretically even full wall at the front. Like one thing you could do is full wall at the front and double all over the adepts, and then it doesn't matter even if you don't have a 3rd unit, and then defend with the Oracle, take a 3rd base like that. Like there's some cute stuff that you can do with that for sure.
I forgot that this was what Showtime tried to do. He tried to go for an earlier attack. That did almost work. So I guess he was trying to change things up, but
Yeah.
and he even got closer, I think, to stabilizing too with this opener, but he still lost.
Yeah, I think he definitely adapted here where he went higher unit counts of 2 base. But this attack, in theory, I'm not even sure. I didn't pay too much attention to the early game, but this should not be even close to working. Like on paper, this is exactly what I want to face with the Swarm House, because I mean, not exactly what I want to face, but it's pretty good because you stop naturally at 69 workers. So he already made roaches. Theoretically, he shouldn't be losing anything here. But I'm not sure what happened there. Like there must have been some mistakes in the early game
I
from
guess
Rainer.
not many drone losses or anything like that.
Yeah, like if you stay even on worker count with Protoss and you make roaches, I don't see how. Ah, he's floating a lot of money.
Oh, there you
Maybe
go.
he probably was saving first foremost, and then he saw the attack too late. That's probably
Mm.
why he's struggling with this.
Oh, there you go.
But
So, okay, well, this actually wasn't supposed to work to begin with. So, I guess Showtime maybe wasn't thinking about even dedicating with it then.
yeah,
Yeah, I
could
didn't
be.
realize, so I have a shot here.
Yeah, we used to play a lot of Swarmos when Roach favorites Swarmos when the 8 gate charge with Icon, the Icon drop into the 6 gate or 8 gate was a thing, and what Stats used to do, Stats was by far the best against this, was he just would stay on the map with these units and force the Locust Wave in the middle of the map, or at least force more roaches. So even if he just stands there and forces more roaches, the Swarm host attack itself gets a lot weaker. So there is definitely some merit to just doing some pressure and then not committing with it. But yeah, this game looks really good for Showtime. Not really sure how he does. Yeah, I don't think he needs a fourth base. He
Yeah,
definitely he changed that for sure. In the game that he won, he just stayed on 3 bases.
I think that's what I looked at as well. It's like I think he just overreached because then he struggled to defend it.
Yeah, like it is pretty much an all-in from Zerg. Like there's no other way to put it. But again, I think he also is not good with the disruptor waves in this series in particular.
Right. Yeah, he was a little
Like
overconfident
you should
there.
clear that instantly.
Yeah. Well, he's like he took the battle to him, and then he used the disruptors, like you said, on the actual money hot shots,
Yeah.
and then didn't have him for the swarm host. So actually, that seems to be kind of the bigger deal in the fourth nexus. But
He also took a fight there the entire time against the Roach Ravager on the left, but he wasn't in range of any batteries or anything like that.
There you
You
go.
can even pre-fire some disruptors, like one disruptor at a time when you see the Locust are about to land. Like, you can do a lot of stuff that will just keep your units alive. And he like even now he's getting kind of close to stabilizing because he has a big disruptor count.
yeah, he does. He almost makes it work.
I mean that also was really bad. You can't lose
Yeah.
disruptors like that.
Yeah.
And now he actually has a prism. Like if he saved all of his disruptors, I'm not even sure how many disruptors he already lost, but I think he had a lot because he went double robo.
7.
Yeah, so you can also just save those. Like there's nothing that kills them.
All right. Well, I was only momentarily worried. Like, oh, did I miss something with the patch of the maps that are now making swarm hosts like the go-to? I really, no offense, but I would prefer them not to be the same build over and over and over again. So it sounds like it was just a Showtime kind of style thing. Glad to hear that. Might see it, might not in Katowice. Overall impressions of ZVP with the patch and the maps. Does it really change that much?
The maps changed a lot because on this map pool you cannot wall on all the maps. So on the past map pool we had to play a really good Protoss map in a best of 3 always because there was Moondance, Stargazers, and then Data Sea. So these 3 were all Protoss favored. And now we don't really have that anymore. So we have like Ancient Cistern, which is kind of big, and then we have Grassland, which is kind of big, but you can veto those. And then there's Altitude, which is also really big, but it's super open. And there's a gold base with 8 mineral patches, which is insane if you get it. And against Protoss, usually you can get that. So one of the big maps is actually a Zerg map, which completely shifts the balance of the map pool in the Zerg's favor in that matchup. So offensive playstyles will be way better, like mid-game offensive playstyles. Ravagerling Bane attacks, maybe with some queens. Ravager Bane Muta is going to be better. Hydra Bane attacks are going to be better. Late game is going to be harder because of the maps. So playing Broodlord late game was way better on the past map pool because the bases were a bit further together. It was much easier to just wall off one side with spine crawlers and then have your Broodlord and faster spore crawler all on the other side. On this map, I think we're gonna see way less of that. In general, the late games from the Zergs and just Zergs trying to kill the Protoss players with baning based armies. Also, the lurkers are probably a little bit worse because of how open the maps are.
Okay.
And yeah.
Nothing with a
So
patch.
what even happened in the patch? Yeah, the shield battery is a little bit worse. So once again, that's better for offensive play styles. The Ravager got nerfed,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so it's you can die a little bit easier. Maybe we're gonna see some Protoss all-ins. Definitely no early game all-ins, but that never really was already last patch the case all too much. Yeah, I think most of the things are just slight changes. The carrier got changed, right? So the
Oh yeah.
corruptors
Yeah,
the
that's actually
corruptors
a
are a
big
little bit
one.
better.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a big one because I wanted to ask that question. Is it big? Is actually the question. Because Showtime, I know, was saying that it was kind of a. It's not like it's the biggest deal in the world. Pro gamers are already doing the shift queuing and using it correctly, but that it was perhaps a bigger buff than intended. So, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I played a bunch of late games, and I think it's mostly useful to clean up armies when they're already like you clean up armies more efficiently when they're already on lower numbers, lower HP numbers, especially. But in most late game scenarios, I think you want to clump your units because corruptors really suck against void rays, so you want to kite around the void rays
Mm-hmm.
instead of just making a concave and A moving. And you want to pick off the units from the side and simply just one shotting because we have a the way it works is we have like a very decent number of corruptors that we can afford supply wise that literally just one shots all the units. So it's just better because it lowers the damage output faster to clamp all your units to one spot, check where the High Templars are and where the Archons are because we got really good at it because we were obviously forced to do that and then micro that way. And I think in like 90% of the cases, that's still the way to go. But the there's definitely scenarios where just splitting your units and A moving is better
Mm-hmm.
than it was before. I honestly think on these maps, Protoss is I think it's way better to play ground late game with a Stargate transition ready than making carriers though. And I haven't really played against it too much. And I would be I mean in general I just think Broodlords suck on these maps, so I wouldn't really play that much late game.
Okay. Ooh, all right. And then the last matchup is ZVZ, which I have literally seen nothing of. I have to go and actually like dive to find CVZs. So, do you have any that are available? And if not, can you just talk through some of the things that are happening, I guess?
Yeah, I think I quite literally have no replays from the last weeks because I don't really practice VZ. Um, yeah, the maps are. I mean, the maps are okay. There's no pocket based maps, which kind of. I think pocket based maps were cool because you could play gasless, so that's no longer a thing. That's always something you could play if you're the favorite. You can play gasless, especially if you sneak around two links and you make sure you don't die against the Roach, the Ravager Ling all in. You're kind of safe. But yeah, this map pool has a. I think it's a healthy ZVZ map pool. In general, the maps don't matter as much right now because no one practices CVZ, so everybody just does whatever they have prepared. So it tends to be more aggressive than most of the times,
Hmm.
which means that Muta sucks. And usually the maps, what they decide is if Muta is good or not. But if Muta just sucks in general because everybody all-ins anyways, the maps don't matter as much. The maps are not super short, so they're not like there's a bunch of maps that are good for 12 pool. There's 4 maps that are good for 12 pool, so if you veto 2 of them, you're still gonna like there's probably gonna be a decent amount of 12 pools basically. And just it's gonna stay cheesy as hell because everybody's bad at ZVZ.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
Well, that's interesting. This isn't really the first time that ZVZ has been I mean, it's been a growing trend for the last like 6 years that ZVZ is no longer the meme that it once was, where we'd force the newbie commentators to cast it because it happens so often. But it feels like, especially in the last year or two, ZVZ has been the least talked about matchup until it's the finals, and then everyone talks about how OP Zerg is. So there's that. But
Yeah.
I mean, why is that? This is actually not even a super important question to ask. I'm just very curious. Like,
I mean, there's legit not that many good Zerg players because Zerg is just hard. Like, if you look at win rate, Zerg's underperforming forever already. Like in the last, I don't know, year or two.
mm-hmm.
So that's just because they're like the mid to high level Zergs. There's just not that many of them, and they're struggling with all the other matchups. I basically never play ZVZ unless it's against Sarah late into the tournament. There's 4 Zergs in Europe. NA has a Scarlet, and then I guess Cham in Latin America, and then in Korea there's Dark Solar, and not Droke even anymore. There's Dark Solar and Ragnarok, and then there's a drop off, and then there's like Su and Armani. But it's just not that many Zergs, and most of the Zergs that are not the top 4 in Europe, plus Scarlet, and then the top 2 even 2 or 3 in Korea mostly just lose against Protosses, I feel like, and the good Terrans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we just don't see, like, the matchup is just being played way less than the other matchups because there's just not that many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's too much else to read into that.
And the reverse is happening where now we have a bunch of PvP. So it it makes sense, but I still felt like I don't know. I still felt like ZVZ was happening a little bit more last year or 2 years ago, and now it's just it seems impossible to find ZVZ. It's always been hard to find Zergs.
Yeah,
said trouble.
I mean, in Europe we have the special case where none of us practice ZVZ because we have 4 players, and then we also don't like. If we don't practice with each other, we don't need to practice the matchup, so it's more efficient for none of us to practice and all of us to practice. Also, why would we show them the strategies? Because we only have 3 potential opponents that we play against. So if I show one of them my strategies, what really is the point? I really think theoretically, if you became really good at ZVZ, if you practice it a lot, you could become super solid at it. But just there's like, if you wanna ask me for customs, I just laugh at them, and I really doubt Rainer plays with them. Miko plays with the AI only anyways. It doesn't really matter if there's players. So we don't practice it. Koreans don't practice it either. I'm almost certain. I think Solar told me something like he didn't play ZVZ for a year as well. So
funny. Well, okay, so the maps have reduced the volatility a little bit. But because you guys don't play against each other, we really don't know what to expect. That's what I'm getting here.
You don't know. Well, yeah, it's mostly all-ins, and because it's so many all-ins, you're gonna see more standards Roach openers because they're more safe against all-ins. So you'll see.
Okay. So I'm gonna say that there's gonna be a lot of all-ins and aggression, and then both of y'all are gonna play super defense, and I'm gonna look an idiot. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, yeah, that's a mind game. You can play super standard, and that's kind of good against all-ins, but because we practice so little, you can still die to the all-ins. So like the all-ins beat Muta. The later all-ins beat the earlier all-ins. And then the all-ins in general can also beat standard if the other guy fucks up their scouting or their defense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're playing so many all-ins, because in your mind you have something prepared. You know what to do. The opponent doesn't. So in a tournament, that obviously helps a lot, rather than playing reactive.
Well, that is interesting. I'd still love to go in and ask some more pointed questions about ZVZ because we don't see that often, and it's always been my weakest, but don't have too much time. So I wanted to quickly go over some of the Katowice stuff, interview you a little bit. Lambo coming in to Katowice main event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, number 17. Yeah, how's the general practice been going? What are your expectations for Katowice?
My practice has been going very well, actually. I started practicing a lot once the maps were known. I played a lot of customs. And the expectations, I hope to get out of the groups. And then once you're out of the groups, literally anything can happen because you can always win a single series. But it depends a lot on the groups. So my goal for this year was to qualify for the group stage, which from Europe isn't that easy. Now that we got so many global spots, it was fine because usually Europe has a little less spots. But since Shotem and me had enough points, we made it anyways. And then, so that was the first goal. And then when I'm there, honestly, I just take it one game at a time. I will prepare for every single opponent as good as I can, and then what happens happens. But the goal is always to beat the next player, which means the goal is to win the entire tournament theoretically.
Right.
Uh,
Are there any players that have been it's kind of the off seasons. This is kind of a hard question, but are there any players that you think are going to surprise us with their results, both in a negative and positive way? Is Clem suddenly really bad? I guess, something like that.
The thing is, with the kids, they can struggle a little bit and not practice for a while, and then they practice right before. So if I tell you right now that Rainer or Clem are doing a little worse, it doesn't matter most of the time, because if they actually start practicing, they become a lot better. But no, I think it's hard to say. I think Bjan is recently, so if you just look at the big tournaments, Bjan hasn't performed that well, but he recently has gotten quite a bit better, so he's probably very scary for his seed. And then other than that, most people are as strong as they seem. I know Neep has been mostly studying, so I would like to have him in my group, for example, but yeah, other than that, I don't think there's any, like, if there's some underdogs and someone is performing way better than their ranking is or their EPT standing, it's probably a Korean, and I don't know because I don't really practice that much with Koreans other than Bjan.
Oh, okay. That was gonna be my next question. This year has been kind of the I don't know, redemption of the Koreans, right? They let 3 foreigners slip into the top 4 of Katowice last year, and then they've been winning out Valencia and Atlanta at the very least, beating you guys to the round of 8, just barely though. Do you think that the Koreans are still coming in as the strongest, not just Maru and Hero, obviously, but just like overall the Koreans? Because let me give the secret behind my question here. My thoughts are that you have the top, I don't know, like 4 Koreans. So Maru, Hero, Dark Bunny, perhaps. That's the top 4, actually. And then it drops off. Do you have similar opinions, totally different opinions? What's up?
Yeah, I think from Korea it's Maru, Hero, Dark, and then there's a drop off, and then there's Bunny, Byan, Solar, and then there's another drop off.
Okay.
And then it's like Gumio and the rest. Gumio, Ragnarok, the boys. So I do think that Korea is also concentrated a little bit more top heavy. So Europe obviously is extreme with Cyril, Rainier, Clem, and then there's a drop off, and then there's Gabe, and then there's a small drop off, and then Showtime me. And then it's like Elaser and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't count Bunny quite to those 3 yet. But I do think that the normal favorites are always the tournament favorites. But in Katowice, I think a run, like, for example, the one that Gabe had last year, is always possible for, I think, pretty much anyone that is already qualified. I think pretty much anyone who's already qualified, if they make it out, you can always beat 1 or 2 players. Like, it's a lot. You just need one good day, and then you're out of groups, and then a lot of it has to do with what is happening in the actual game. So if you have a good well prepared strategy against what your opponent is going up to, and then you defend 1 all in well, because usually everybody has one of their prepared strats. And then very, very, very fast you can win a best of 5 against a better player like that. So
okay,
I think it's a little bit luck based, and a little bit based on how good people's daily form are. But I think the strengths are very similar between Europe and Korea as they were last year, and also throughout this year. Like, I would still say tournament favorites is Serl, followed by Maru, followed by Hero, because of consistency.
Yeah.
And then followed by Dark, followed by Rainer, followed by, I'm not sure afterwards, Clem, maybe. Clem or Bunny.
Oh, you really put Clem up there even with his offline performances?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's has a lot to do with bracket luck. Like, if he avoids Terrence, I think there's a decent chance.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I think we're all kind of waiting excitedly for Clem's good offline run, but still been kind of waiting. Last question. I don't think anyone has any more in chat. Have you seen the schedule? Did they talk to you about the schedule?
No, I just assumed it was the same as last time. So
Okay.
last time it was the open bracket on one day, right? And then first two groups on second day, second two groups on next day.
Yeah, so you probably remember the Saturday was like 14 hours, something like that. it was the infamous like 1 a.m. Bunny Rogues day. They have changed that, and this is now public information. So yeah, I didn't know if they were getting your consultation as well. So you can look at it at the Katowice thing. I can link it in Discord if you want to check it out. But my general kind of question was going to be, you know, what is the toll taken on you? Like, how much do you think that the Katowice setup works against you or for you? And then I guess now looking at this new schedule, is it better or worse?
I mean, I think playing that late is ridiculous. And I
Right.
think just because you're that tired. I actually don't think stamina is an issue whatsoever because you have a lot of time in between the matches later on. Like on Saturday, Sunday, you play, what, 2 series at most, I think? Or 3, I guess, now that with the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. But there's breaks in between, quite big breaks. So I don't think stamina is really an issue. I think it's very good that they make it so you don't have to play super late. I think that's the biggest, especially for Koreans that might be jet lagged on top of it.
Right.
I think it's just not nice if we make them play very late.
Yeah, that was
Um,
they wanted to avoid that again, right? So I can tell you,
yeah.
you know, the general changes, especially because this actually shows only the last 3 days, and there's 2 more days. They're gonna split up the groups, so it's like a little bit more like the regionals, where it's not just all in one day. You
Oh.
have the finishing matches, let's call them, on a separate day. And then round of 12 is all Saturday, and then round of 8 and the rest is on Sunday. So I think that was what like Valencia was like. So yeah, what do you know? You think that's gonna be better or
So
worse
are
for you?
all 4 groups on the Thursday, or
So
do all groups start on the same day then?
yeah, they're gonna mix it again. So I don't like it's. I just remember thinking this is like regionals. This is like, you know, we're gonna have to really pay close attention to try and get the narrative out there. And then the big thing is that, like, I guess Group B and D like finish on Thursday. So then all of them would have to start on Wednesday then. Yeah. It's stupid because this website doesn't actually have all 5 days.
Yeah, I'm just looking at 3 days right now.
It's
I don't
great.
know. I think if it's split by 2 games a day, so two games, 2 games, 1 game, that would. I mean, if I have a good start, I'm a super momentum based player. So if I feel like I'm playing well, it's for me worse. But consistency wise, this is better for me because I tend to tilt if I play bad, and then I can get myself like I know when I'm tilting, and can try to get myself out of it, but I still will have a negative feeling, and it will impact my performance in these types of games a lot. So depends a lot on how my first series goes. If I win the first series, I think this is worse for me. If I lose the first series, this is way better for me because I had these tilting moments in almost every Katowice because I tend to perform quite poorly in the group stages. So probably, I mean, I prefer this overall consistency wise. It's just you cannot have that bad of a day and then you're just out because
Yeah.
you're practicing the entire year for the World Championship, and then there's one day. For example, I think I was in Zest's group, and Zest was like one of the tournament favorites, and he lost like 1 series too many, and then you're just out. It can happen very fast, and I prefer it being spread over multiple days, even if it might hurt my performance if, let's say, I win on the first day or two. But
Okay.
usually my momentum also carries over longer time distances. So let's say if I win the first 2 series, I'm pretty sure I'm still gonna be
It can
pretty happy
be
the next day.
kind of annoying though if you're playing like, well, again, I don't actually know the full schedule. So I guess if all A through D start on Wednesday and they finish B and D on Thursday. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, you'd still like. There's a potential for two groups to have an off day then. So does that suck, or like a day where you just like you played Wednesday, you don't play Thursday, you play Friday? Does that suck or is that
doubt
cool?
I doubt they do that. No,
Okay.
that would kind of suck, but I really doubt they do that.
Okay.
Because this is just round 4, it says, right? So probably we played 2
Yeah.
series the first day and then 1 the second day, and then round 4 and 5, I guess. Shouldn't it be 5 rounds?
That's why
Anyways.
I'm extra confused.
Right.
There's like gaps of time as well. Like I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll get a fleshed out one soon. TM. All right. Well, yeah, I still got your general thoughts on like kind of like potential setup, so that was still helpful. We'll get the concrete one later, but that's it. Hours up. So thank you very much for coming on, Lambo, giving us some insight, and hope you do
Sure.
well at Katowice. I'll be continuing to watch your streams, support him, guys. You all know who Lambo is. So
Very nice. Thank you very much. If any other questions come up, make sure to just ask.
cool. Thanks.
And yeah, I'll see you there, I guess.
See ya. Bye bye.